Number 10, and probably the rest of the page, is all going to be factoring by grouping. You do factoring by grouping when you have 4 or more terms. We're just going to do it with 4 terms in different variations. Sometimes you need to rearrange them. Sometimes you can just leave them in the order that they're in. But what you're looking for is you want to pair up things that have something in common. I'm just going to start with the first one and group the first two together. If I take x to the third minus 4x squared, those two terms have a greatest common factor of x squared. So if I divide the x squared out of each of those, x to the third divided by x squared leaves me just an x. Negative 4x squared divided by x squared leaves me just the minus 4. So when I do my other two terms, what I want to have happen is I want to get the exact same thing in the parentheses. If I have negative 5x plus 20, but I want to end up with a positive x, what do I have to divide out of my negative 5x? The negative 5, right? If I divide each of those by negative 5 then, negative 5x divided by negative 5 leaves me a positive x. 20 divided by negative 5 is negative 4. So you can see that what's in the parentheses is the exact same thing, and that's what you want to have happen. If that doesn't happen, you want to rearrange your terms and try it again. We're not done yet with the problem. What happens is now this becomes my greatest common factor. The x minus 4 is going to go in front, and I'm going to divide that out of both of my terms, which just leaves me those things in the front. X squared minus 5. So my answer is that I'm going to have x minus 4 times x squared minus 5. If I wanted to check my answer, I could FOIL that out. X times x squared is x to the third. X times a minus 5 is a minus 5x. Negative 4 times x squared is a negative 4x squared. Negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20. I should get the same 4 terms, not necessarily in the same order, but I can check and say, oh yeah, that works out. I got the right terms. So if I'm going to factor by grouping, I usually look and say, oh, do the first terms just have something in common? If they do, I just leave those two together. If they don't, then I start trying to rearrange things. So in this case, I'm going to start with my 4y to the 5th plus my 5y to the 3rd, and I'm going to look and say, what do those both have in common? They both have a y to the third that I can take out, right? So I'm going to take out the y to the 3rd. Trying to remember which one of these I had to fix because there was a typo on it. So if you see one of these and you have a different problem than I do, it's probably because it didn't work out right and I had to fix it. So if I take out a y to the 3rd from 4y to the 5th, I would get
4y to the 2nd.
4y to the 2nd. If I take y to the 3rd out of positive 5y to the 3rd, I would get
5.
a plus 5. So my goal on my other two terms is to end up with a positive 4y squared plus 5. I have negative 24y squared minus 30. So what do I have to divide negative 24y squared by to get a positive 4y squared? Negative 6. So negative 24y squared divided by negative 6 is positive 4y squared. Negative 30 divided by negative 6 is positive 5. Those two things match up, so we know we're on the right track. My common factor then is the 4y squared plus 5. If I factor that out of each of my terms, I'm going to get the values that I factored in front, so the other factor is going to be y to the 3rd minus 6. And that crazy thing's going to go in for my answer. Again, if you want to FOIL it out, you should end up with those same 4 terms you started with. If you're on the assessment, you go, I really want to check, make sure it's right before I type it in. 12 then. I have a 2y to the third minus a y squared. Those both have what in common?
One is the second.
Y to the second. And if I factor a y to the second out of each of those, I'm going to get
2y
2y
minus 1.
minus 1. Now notice here I have 2y minus 1. What do I need to divide out of 2y to get 2y? See, I put this one on here for a reason. What do you divide 2y by to get 2y?
1.
A positive 1, exactly. So I'm going to have a plus 1 in front, and if, of course, I divide both of those by 1, I get the same thing. So if that happens, where you have what you have in the parentheses, you still have to factor the 1 out. My common factor then is 2y minus 1. My other factor would be the y squared plus a 1.